This is Marketing Uncomplicated. Hi, everybody, and welcome back. I have Brandon Evans, who is the founder and chief elevation officer of One Heart. Before One Heart, his path of building large technology companies in New York led him to financial success, but lacked greater meaning, fulfillment, and joy. I think a lot of us can understand this, stepping out on our own and starting something for ourselves. So I'm excited to dive into this. When his article Lost on Purpose unexpectedly went viral, Brandon was called to serve all those with similar stories reaching out for support. Welcome, Brandon.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Where was Lost in Support published, by the way?
I published it on Medium at the time. Platform was a little new. I had 0 followers, and the article was about 25 minutes long, which is way longer than recommended. So I was pretty surprised to see the traction it got.
Oh, I love that. And it picked up over the course of what, a week, like a month, or it just kind of took its own legs and flew?
Yeah, really, in just like a couple weeks, it was reaching tens of thousands, and still reaches many. And we were reaching out still from the article.
I love that. I love that. I mean, what a gift that keeps on giving in terms of spreading the word and where you are at with One Heart. So I do want to dive into that, and I can't wait to learn more and share, One Heart with everybody. But I do like in my opening where I said, it's that you lacked the greater meaning of fulfillment and joy. And I think a lot of people get stuck in the current situation that they're in, whether it's their 9 to 5 or maybe something that they've started, and they just haven't felt that gusto to keep it continuing. So I'd love to learn a little bit and hear really from you, what was that sort of aha moment or that spark where you're like, I got to get out of here? And at that point, did you know that you were going to start One Heart, or it came a little later?
Yeah. Definitely didn't know at that point. So I mean, essentially what had occurred, I sold a company, and I guess that was around 2011. And then as we were selling the company, I actually took some of the technology and things I had developed within the company outside and raised funds, raised VC funds from a prominent West Coast investor to spin the technology off and create a new tech business. So had invested a lot of time building a pretty large business, and then really just immediately moved into the next one, raised a bunch of money, grew that to 100 employees in really just a few years. And which was pretty typical of my career at that point, just kind of on to the next thing at full speed. And obviously there's excitement in that, and we can follow that for moments. And then what really occurred was several years in, my investors came back to me and said, I want to raise more money. And I had already raised quite a bit. And it was really that moment that my heart sank. I just realized that just thinking about kind of the long-term path of that, knowing that it's probably another, 5+ years to build the level of business that we were talking about. I would have been, I was kind of approaching 40 in my mid late 30s. And just really started thinking about my legacy, about the work that I wanted to be doing in my life. We were helping a lot of big companies that were selling kind of unhealthy, unneeded things, and just started to really have trouble kind of associating with that, and just the lifestyle of a New York startup, and how I'd been living my life for about close to 20 years at that point, working 60, 80 hours a week. And really dedicating a lot of myself to my work. And so it was really in that moment. And then my investors kept coming to me and asking me to raise the money. I said no several times. And then eventually they came to me and said, we'd like to replace you as CEO and, go out and raise the money. And so, it was kind of handed to me in that way. It was hard for me to step aside. I built the company. I had a lot of employees I loved, a culture that we had built, and kind of needed that kick in the butt at that time to really step out. But at that time I had no idea what I'd be doing, what joy, fulfillment looked like, what I was doing wrong, or not wrong, but what was missing in my life. I had done pretty much the things that I was told I should do to live a successful life. Living in New York, nice condo, doing work that in the startup world that was exciting for many.
Successful in the characteristics of what is defined by, I guess, maybe our cultural values.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it had been really a full sprint at that point. Just, next goal, next thing, not really having time to sit back and enjoy, what had already been created, and not really connected to, or even really knowing what my purpose and true mission was at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I like that you said that it was kind of handed to you, because I think like there is something in our gut that always tells us it's time to move on, but we just don't, because like you said, you were connected. You had started this from ground up. You had employees and people that, maybe potentially had become friends even at that point in time in your life. And you're like, how do I walk away from this?
Yeah, it was
And
my
it's
life.
yeah, and whatever you believe in, whether it is, messages from the universe or whatever. I mean, I think something was knocking at your door and was like, Brandon, you got to get out. There's something that you need to be doing that's outside of this.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. So you step out and sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to continue. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, really where that led me was this period of being, lost. And I use that in quotes because I think, generally that's really the way we're meant to live. I think we believe we're supposed to have this perfect path laid out and be following something. And we're afraid to step into the unknown, to step into the space where ultimately, you can really find yourself, find your true path. And so, I really was in that space, or allowed myself to be in that space for the first time. And that's when I really started, venturing out and doing a lot of personal exploration, personal work.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Mm-hmm.
was after, really a couple of years of that and really exploring via, many modalities myself that, the article Lost on Purpose came. And that really is what kind of spurned what I'm doing now.
Yeah. Do you think prior to, I guess, the knock on the door of your exit that you had reached burnout yet, or you were about to get to that point?
Yeah, I mean, I was still fairly high functioning, but yeah, I think the energy was not there, the passion, the
Yeah.
excitement, and you get into a space where you kind of almost accept that as a way of being. You have this big company, you have these responsibilities, you have these investors, and you think, oh well, I just gotta keep continuing. I gotta
Keep moving.
power through this, and we're afraid, or we think it's wrong to look at our own personal interests and what we need to really thrive. And so I didn't want to let anyone down. I didn't want to quit. I'd never been fired or had a failure in my career in that way. And so yeah, it was a hard kind of transition to make at the time.
Yeah. Did you look at it as a failure? Like I always want to raise that question because I think each gender looks at it different, each person looks at it different because you said you had never been fired.
Mhm.
Did I fail at something here? I think because work is probably 80% of a lot of people's lives on a day to day.
Mhm.
It's like it is the lost feeling that you feel when you've been let go or you've been fired or like where do
Mhm.
I go next?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, the company was doing very well. And that's why they wanted to raise the money. I mean, we were tripling revenue year over year. We were growing fast. We were in a really nice niche that
Cushion.
was very relevant. So, from that standpoint, on paper, it wasn't a failure per se. However, yeah, when you get in that space and you don't know what to do next, you don't know what's off, how to kind of course correct, and then decisions are made for you, it does feel like a failure. I think intellectually I knew it wasn't. I knew I'd done a lot. I had um, you know built a great company, and was proud of that. However, it was hard to internalize that at the time. I didn't really have the
Yeah,
tools. I didn't
absolutely.
really know
Totally.
how to do that when all of a sudden I wasn't doing what I'd been doing my whole
Yeah.
career, and I was in a blank space.
Yeah. So you've exited, you wrote this article that is still, picking up traffic and connecting you to lots of people, potentially around the globe. how and when was One Heart born, and where did it kind of spark and come from?
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned this journey. Part of the journey, around that time, I was introduced to ayahuasca, which is a plant
Mm-hmm.
medicine, a psychedelic, and very sacred medicine. I hadn't even heard of it at the time when it was introduced to me. I guess this
Wow.
was maybe like 9 years ago. And as soon as it was brought to my attention, I was like, I'm in. And which wasn't
Yeah.
my typical way. Normally I would do a lot of research and really think through it. But something told me that this was for me, and
Yeah.
it was a calling. And so that kind of started some of the journey. And then when I did leave the company, I did some travel. I had never taken a break in my career at any point. It was just one thing onto the next. And I took some time, traveled to Southeast Asia, did some yoga meditation retreats, did some coach training programs, part of some other programs of really like self exploration and growth. And it was really through that process that, I started shifting a lot of aspects of myself, started seeing different perspectives on, how to approach life, how to approach my career and my passion and my mission. And I wrote an article, the article we were talking about, Lost on Purpose. I wrote it initially because I didn't really know how to explain to others around me, like who I was now. Because I had shifted a lot
Mm-hmm.
of things, even my family, like how do I explain, kind of what I've been going through, what I've been learning.
Mm-hmm. Did
And
you
so
write it post your ayahuasca experience?
yeah, I mean, at that time
Okay.
I had several,
Okay.
at that point, and then also these other modalities and these other things. So I'd been on quite a journey, and yeah, so there were these shifts that had happened, and the article
Yeah.
was really a way for me to kind of formulate them for myself first and foremost, and then for those around me. And I wasn't going to post the article at one point. It was, I'd never posted anything personal about myself in that way. And then it was my 40th birthday, and I decided, I'm not going to do it now. When and I actually posted the
Yeah.
article on my 40th birthday, and I got all this feedback, lots of comments, lots of people writing me, people saying this is my story, this is my story, and what they meant by that. Are you there?
Are you there? Are you there?
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know where I
That's
lost you.
okay. You said I wasn't going to post the article,
Okay.
and then
Yeah,
you
so I
said
wasn't
that you
gonna.
got a lot of people saying this is my story, this is my story.
Yeah. So yeah, there are all these people saying this is my story, this is my story, and what they meant by that was,
And
they'd done a lot of the
connecting.
things that society had deemed, what it takes, to live a successful life. They had checked the boxes, done the things, and yet they weren't feeling this fulfillment and joy. And so, a lot of people really associated with that. And that was really, kind of the first, inkling for me of like, okay, so there's a lot of people out there like this, a lot of people who have an oversized ability to create impact in the world. And yet, they don't really know how to do that. They don't really know how to find that for themselves. And, with that, I just, is really where the idea for One Heart came, is like, how can
Hmm.
I take this personal journey I've been on, all these different modalities, these things I've been learning, this medicine ayahuasca that had been so impactful for me, and how do we really target that towards leaders, and in particular heart-centered leaders that want to create and do good in the world. And
Yeah.
that was the impetus for how it all started.
Yeah. Um, I like how you said, thank you for that. I like how you said that, you're typically somebody that researches something and you had, you've been heads down. I mean, ayahuasca was kind of brewing at that point, like 8 years ago. I mean, it was kind of like if you were in that kind of realm of seeking change or a shift, as you keep mentioning that, you would have heard about it or read about it at least somewhere. So it's interesting that at that point in your life, like you were just, I mean, I can see a complete difference just from, I mean, obviously not knowing you, but just from the
Mhm.
conversation that we're having, from who Brandon was pre
Yeah,
One Heart and who Brandon became, post ayahuasca and building One Heart. Right. And
yeah,
I think a lot of people go through it, and it's important. And I want to dig into this because I think a lot of people are are questioning, is ayahuasca for me, and is it not for me? And we'll obviously talk about the folks that do come, to your events with one heart. But the fact that it came to you and it made you feel comfortable, it spoke to you, and then hence your journey of finding really your true sort of, what's your true path in this lifetime, and where should you be giving, moving forward. So, and then I also want to like touch base on that. You said leaders with heart, and I want you to expand on that as well. So,
okay. So the first part of the question was to expand more on
ayahuasca, and like, who is it right for?
Yeah.
Who is it? Really, is there even an answer to who it's not right for?
Yeah, I think for me, it's more of a timing thing.
Yes.
I don't know that there's necessarily certain people. I mean, there's people that will say this is not for me, and having brought 1,000 leaders through and seeing, basically works for everyone, and just how, in the right context, in the right program, and with the right support, I've seen how powerful it is. And the people that do come to us, there is some level of calling, there is some level of timing. Oftentimes it does have to do with some transitions in their lives, or getting to a space of feeling lost, or at least not feeling like they're on some path that is step by step they're following. I think there's a quote, I forgot who it's by, but if you're following a path, then you're probably following someone else's path. Because life is unknown. There is a lot of stuff out there, and oftentimes far greater than we can even imagine, that's there for us. But we kind of have blinders on, and we're kind of following what we know. And it really is stepping into the unknown, where you can create the next level for yourself, where you can discover the things that are necessary to discover, to really know what your mission and what your passion is. And so I speak with everyone that comes on our journeys. Usually if they're hearing some level of calling, oftentimes they've heard about it, several times fairly recently. Most of our people come from referrals, so they hear about someone else's experience and start to tap into that energy and want that for themselves. And so, that's a big piece of it. You got to have, I think the main thing is just having a desire to create some change in your life, having the courage to step into the unknown, and really see what's out there, because there's far more out there than most of us know in our lives.
Totally. Yeah. So thank you for that again. I mean, and then in responding to what you said about leaders with heart, let's take a little bit of a step back before you answer that, because obviously that is who your target audience is. And wanting to just hear a little bit from you in terms of your mission and purpose with one heart.
Yeah, I mean, I think the world today is, there's a lot of products, and as a new father, I feel like I'm getting deeper and deeper into this, because there's so many products. Most of what's out there is really, if you get into like food and household products and all this stuff, like things that are created and are very unhealthy. And, we just kind of get into buying the next product, buying the next thing, buying things out of convenience. And so, in many ways, that's the ecosystem. I was in advertising and marketing, and I even was a brand manager for a liquor company. Obviously not, prior to that work. With my work and my startups, we were working with a lot of the big food companies, Pepsi's and Crafts, and those people of the world. And you start to just see that what's being put out is not good. In our world, it's not supporting people. It's having negative effects on people. And so I think, I think the heart comes in is like this desire to like, how can I contribute in a way that uplifts society, that makes people's lives, better. And I think most of us have some knowing, even when I was working at the liquor company, obviously I had some knowing. This was not a great thing to be putting forth. In many cases, we were targeting like young college and, young adults. And, I was doing my job. It was a fun job. I was young. And, you start to just kind of become more conscious and realize that, hey, what if I could take, my skills, my abilities, and do something positive with that, put something out there that is actually going to uplift people instead of suppress them and hold them down and make them less healthy and less thriving in their lives. And so I think that's really where the heart comes in, is just, just this desire to, how do I, use my talents to create something that benefits the world and really
In a
make
bigger
that front
way.
and center. And I think a lot of people are afraid because how will I make money and how will I support my family? And I've seen it time and time again, how much opportunity there is out there when people make that shift. And it's quite scary before you make that. I've seen people with 25-year careers at the same company and, get laid off. And then all of a sudden it's like, I don't want to be doing that. I didn't like what I was doing in the first place. Yet, they perpetuated that for years and years because it supported their family and provided for them. And, we're doing a lot of that in society. We're providing for our families in the ways that, is being presented to us. However, many of those ways are not beneficial to society.
Yeah. Amazingly said. Thank you. Now, give us a little bit of an insight when somebody first approached you. I mean, let's talk a little bit about, how people are finding you. I mean, the power in community, right? I mean, it's like, obviously you wrote this article. It has its own legs, in terms of, having people find you and so on and so forth. But let's dig into a little bit, in terms of going into the marketing aspect. How are people finding you when they're finding you? What are the barriers for them to kind of jump on board or not, and what are the type of conversations you have with these folks? And then secondarily to that, I think I like my two-part questions. What is that kind of, that beginning, and walk us through what somebody experiences without giving too much away, of course.
Yeah. People generally find us through referrals. We're still about 70-80% come through referrals. As luck has it, or I wouldn't call it luck. A lot of my work was in building communities and experiences. So it's amazing how I was able to take that, and bring it into this. The startups I had started, the agency, we were very focused on building communities for brands, college ambassador networks. We were really the first tech platform around creating ambassador networks for large brands. And so I spent a lot of time, with social in the early days, with how do we spread the message from customers and consumers and people that already love a product or are purchasing a product. How do we spread that? And, that's really at the core. And it's great when you have a product like we have where it speaks for itself and the results speak for themselves. And so we really, really harness that. We invest a lot in community, largely because it's supportive of our guests. So we have an 8-week program. There's 2 weeks of prep. There's a week in Costa Rica, and there's 5 weeks of integration. And so people get extremely close to each other. They get to know our team, me, everything that we're doing very well. And it becomes, very much a movement. And so we invest a lot there. We have ongoing things as well. We have local chapters in 12 different markets, people that are meeting up and connecting with each other across our various journeys. We have monthly monthly virtual connections where we have 50, 100 people from our communities come online and reconnect with each other. And so, for us, it's a lot of just like continuing to invest in the community because that's what supports them. And then also, if we're providing the right experience, if we're, staying connected and leveraging that, then we can really use that movement to continue what we do. And then on top of that, there's several organizations, people like NEO and YPO and different business organizations have spread the word about us a lot. We partnered with some people, in the space that really understand what we're doing. And, I've spoken about that. I'm on podcasts and various different things. So we can, just really speak more to what we're doing. And if people feel connected to that, often they'll follow up and connect with us.
Yeah, that's great. So you brushed a little bit on, somebody comes in, there's like a 2-week prep, and then there is
Mhm.
the in-person event, and then there's, I think you said, a couple of weeks after that. So walk us through kind of the journey of somebody joining in.
Yeah. So the first step is, as I mentioned, so when they apply, they'll schedule an interview with me, and that really gives us an opportunity for me to really see where they're at in their life, what's coming up for them. I can
Yeah.
pretty easily sense, where they're at, if this is going to be supportive of them, what their expectations are, and really ensure that that's a great match, and vice versa. Um, and obviously, they can get their questions answered and really feel into that experience for themselves. And then from that point, when they
Have
do
there
sign up,
been, I have a question for you. Have there been people that you've said no to, or people that have kind of dropped off, and what have been kind of like top level reasoning behind that?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think most of the no's are kind of like an understanding where this doesn't quite feel right, and so I won't,
Yeah.
kind of talk them into it,
Oh,
or
shit.
you know, kind of guide them maybe a different direction, or they won't have the commitment or
Amazing.
the
Yeah.
drive to to make it happen at that point. Obviously there's some people that just are not cultural fits, or just aren't right, or aren't coming for the right reasons, and so there are those situations, but more times than not, the people coming to us, especially because they're coming from referrals, are kind of pre-curated, and even people
Yep.
finding it randomly through Google searches or Instagram or stuff like that. They're connecting with the message. Our website has a lot on it. You can really feel into the energy, feel into what's happening, and usually the people that are connecting with us are already pre-aligned.
Yeah.
So that's another real benefit of kind of fostering this community, and just really living our mission and purpose. And obviously we have team
Okay.
members, and we have others that that are connecting with people in their communities as well.
Okay, so they go through the interview process, and if
Mhm.
they if it's both decided upon that, it's a mutual fit, this is great, let's kind of move forward, what are the next steps from there?
Yeah, so when they sign up, they put down a deposit. At that point, we'll send them on our guides. We have a 25-page guide that has a lot of the basic information of what to bring and details about the journey. It also
Yeah.
has different exercises that we recommend before that really helps them get more clarity around what's going on, inside them, what how to clarify some of their intentions and why they're coming. Because really, the more work you do beforehand, the more clarity you have beforehand, the deeper you can go, and the more you can really work towards, why you're there. So we kind of invest in that process. A couple weeks prior, which we just kicked off on Monday for this upcoming journey, we'll have a full group call, and so we'll connect everyone in with each other. We also have elevation groups, so we'll put people into smaller groups, and those are led by alumni
Hmm.
who have come back to be of service,
Oh,
to
fantastic.
share their experience, to help guide others. Often, well, in almost all cases, these alumni have made huge shifts in their lives. Uh, are on a path of service, whether that's in their full time work, or just really want to find ways to give of themselves outside of that. And so that's really an amazing opportunity because it supports us a lot. It also is kind of a next level for them. And it's really a different experience when you come back as an elevation leader. You participate
Yeah.
fully in everything. However, you also have this added, benefit of really supporting others, and you learn a lot from being on that side of the equation as well. And so they'll have calls with their elevation leader, calls with their small group beforehand. We'll connect a lot on WhatsApp, various different prompts. So really, even by the time we arrive in Costa Rica together, people feel very connected. People are already getting vulnerable. There's actually a lot of breakthroughs and things that happen before, just in this
Oh,
process,
wow. Yeah.
just from sitting, just from the exercises, sitting with this, being in this energy. There's a diet or dieta that you do 2 weeks
Yep.
prior as well, and that's powerful in helping surface some of these things
Cleanse.
as well. And so when we arrive, people feel very safe. They feel very connected, and that's a huge piece of allowing them to go deeper and to really feel good in the space. And then our journeys are, we say we optimize for transformation, not for relaxation. So they're pretty
Yeah.
packed. We do 3 ayahuasca ceremonies, and around that we have a schedule that's kind of like perfectly curated at each moment of where they're at in their journey, that supports them either in additional ways to have huge breakthroughs. A lot of people have big breakthroughs in much of our other content. We have custom workshops around various different themes like self-love and surrender and things that often come up in their own journeys. We have other modalities like Temescal, which is a Native American sweat lodge. We have ice baths. We have movement, conscious movement. We have excursions. So there's a lot of different aspects of the journey itself that obviously brings people together, creates community, and also allows them to really go deep in their process. And then post journey, we have a 5-week integration program, and that's generally a couple calls a week, one with the full group, one with their elevation group. We have some modules that guide much of that is really about like taking everything that they've learned about themselves. So when we're in this experience, we're really kind of communing with our highest self, the universe, however you want to voice that, and you get some pretty clear messages and understanding of who you are outside of like the limiting beliefs, the fears, the constraints that society has put on you. And so our integration program is a lot about codifying that. How do you take this information, put it into 10-year visioning? We have a personal manifesto. We have these documents that really help you take all this information and create something from it that you can use as a guide, moving forward. And that teamed with the community and the support and the relationships people have built, really help them take the work forward. Because it's pretty universal that people will have massive breakthroughs on the journey, and then it's really the integration that determines the life change. So it's how you take that, you go back to the world. Your life hasn't changed. The world around you hasn't changed. There's family's the same, your work's the same. Things around you are the same, and you have these shifts in perspectives and knowing. And how do you take that and apply that to your life and start to make the necessary changes and shifts in your life? And so we'll go through that full process.
Yeah. So there is a big community support right after, in terms of, as you're saying, you're going back into the world, nothing around you has changed, but there's been a huge internal shift. And sometimes I think that can be very scary for people, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's unknown. Like, most of us are doing things we know somewhere that it's not right for us, or they wouldn't be on this experience. They wouldn't be having the suffering and the pain, the issues in their life they're having. Most of that comes just from resisting the change that our higher self wants us to make, and we know is in our best interest. But we choose our patterns, we choose what's comfortable and what's known to us, and so it's kind of like a guide and a shepherding of the unknown. So as people step into that unknown, instead of just recoiling back, now they have this community, they have these tools, they have this support that says, that shows them like other people are having these same experiences, and you're seeing like the highs and how people are making these massive shifts in their lives. We have people reconnecting with their families and parents that, they've been out of touch with forever, and healing, generational trauma. We have people, making big moves in their career that they, never thought they could make. And so when you start to see others doing that, and you start to see how those things are happening and know that it's real, that really creates, the motivation to do that. And on the same token, you see, people struggling, people having issues, and knowing that you're supported through that, and having others that understand that, can support you and know that that's normal, keeps you going through those times as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, I think because I'm sure you've had cases, as you said, people, have you ever had anybody that's left and jumped back onto the hamster wheel? Or there's always that almost 90% people are like redirecting themselves?
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's at least 90%. I mean, we're in touch with most people. Most people stay very connected. Obviously there are some that drop off, so I can't know for certain. But overwhelmingly, like anyone you speak to, and when people are talking, when they're coming back to our community connections, when I'm, when they're reaching out to me or I'm connecting with them, it's I can't believe, the shifts I've made in my life. I owe so much to this work and what you guys do. And so that's definitely the norm. If people are not making that shift, it's really a matter of them not putting in the work, because the tools are there, like the awarenesses are there. People are leaving almost unanimously, like are leaving on a high, like having this great information, this great feeling, and then it's like you still have to have that fortitude to
Continue.
to hold that and continue. And that's going to be the case with anything. Nothing, nothing is going to be like handed to you or a magic fix. However, there are things that can just provide a ton of support, and this is the quickest and most effective, kind of method I've seen. And I've just seen a lot of things, and that's why myself and the team and are so passionate about this work. My team has exclusively come through these journeys, so people who have come on journeys, and they're like, wow, like I want to be.
How do I continue to stay on?
Yeah. And then, the shifts with them is unbelievable because they're coming with us on these journeys and they're putting, they're invested, their life becomes this work. And you see just from journey to journey every few months, just the level of change they have. Almost my entire team are all musicians now. None were when they started. So, it's interesting to see like creative gifts emerge. We've had a lot of artists, that have not done their art in 10, 20 years.
Amazing.
We have some that are thriving artists, having come from like Stanford MBAs, startup world, and all of a sudden, found this completely other way that's totally connected to their passion and who they are. Support them and thrive from that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What has been, since you've started this, because it sounds like I can't even like get into how many amazing case studies you have. It's probably like we said, 90% of people who walk out, it's just a beautiful experience thereafter, but for you as the founder of One Heart, knowing that you had this mission to create a shift in people's lives, and you're doing that. Even from the get-go of, the 2 weeks prior to people coming on these events, there's already, groundbreaking stuff that are happening for them. But what has been the most profound thing that has happened for you over the years of you building out One Heart?
It's a lot. For me, it's really like each journey, there's the journey itself. And, myself and the team, we're drinking the medicine each time. We're participating fully each time. So we have that.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest shifts for me have come between the journeys, and just like, it's this constant challenges that you're faced with, almost tests to continue to show that you're passionate and committed to this work. Whether those are financial challenges, legal, there's been a whole variety of different challenges that have come up. And I think I think at a holistic level, for me, it's the knowing that you can always continue to be supported and get through things as they come, because you just keep seeing it time and time again, and it's almost like time is compressed, and I'm learning the lessons a lot quicker. And so things that would have just like thrown me off before, and I just kind of become bumps in the road. So you don't one of the things, one of the sayings I studied Kabbalah for a while in New York, and the Rav, or the head of the Kabbalah Center, had a saying that don't ask for an easier life, ask for better tools. And that's really what it is. Like, life is going to be life.
Don't ask for days of your life. Days, right?
No, don't ask for a better life. Ask for better tools. Don't ask for an easier life. Ask for better tools.
Don't ask for an easier. I love that.
And that's very much what it is. You don't come to these experiences or do any personal growth and then all of a sudden, everything's perfect. What happens is you start to learn how to deal with the challenges. And sometimes you have even more challenges that come because you're able to handle them. And, those are the challenges you need and your soul needs to continue to evolve and for you to grow. And that's where like fulfillment comes from, taking on challenges, from persevering, and for having resilience. And I think that's where, for me, that's, been an ongoing lesson, and that builds trust in yourself, and trust really builds like self-love. Self-love is really trusting yourself. If you don't trust yourself, like if you don't trust someone else, how can you love them? And so it's just building a greater trust in yourself as you see yourself navigating through challenges, and knowing that, things are going to come up, and I know how to handle them when they do, or I'll figure it out, or, what's needed will be shown to me at that time. And I know it's going to take me to a better place.
The next level. Yeah. Fantastic. What is your goal continuing on with One Heart? What is your ultimate sort of, I want to be here in X amount of years? Is it, global reach? Is it, just continuing touching more lives?
Yeah. Well, one of my learnings is not to set goals.
Yeah. Great. I'm going to take that one for the day.
Yeah, we focus on intentions at One Heart.
Okay.
That's part of like
I'm already learning a shift from this conversation. I
yeah.
love
I
that.
mean, goals are very challenging because they're very binary. You
Mm-hmm.
hit them, you don't hit them. Oftentimes, you hit them, you're on to your next goal.
Love that.
Intentions is really more of like, what is it you want to put out into the world? What do you want to be feeling? What do you want around you? What type of people do you want around you? And so yeah, so it's really a shift into the intentions, and the intention is I know that this work is supporting. I want to continue doing it for as long as I can.
Yeah.
There's not like necessarily a certain size that we need to get to. At one point it was like, oh, we got to ramp up, we got to do this many journeys, the more I've done this, the more I realize it's not, it's not a race. It's just really like, how do we continue to put this work out in a way that feels good for us, that keeps us energized, that keeps the level of what we're providing strong. This is one, I can honestly say that each journey, like the product gets better and better. The team has gotten better and better. I don't know many companies where that's the case. Oftentimes, you get lazy, or you start, writing what you have. And, for us, it's just, there's always this desire to like, if we can help one more person, or we can, they can be 10, the experience can be 10%, more effective. We're always looking at those things and just tweaking, but it comes, I think much more in flow than it would have for me in the past, where I would have written a business plan and, we got to hit this, we got to do this. It's more like, are we aligned with ourselves, with, the work we're doing? We have intentions for, making that sustainable, for the quality of that, for how we want people to feel, and just really honoring that. And there's, there's attentions around having a center, and, what this looks like, even further long term. And we've had opportunities, and we've had, different things come in and out. And it's more of like, allowing that to happen when the time is right.
I love it. Perfect answer. That was great. Thank you. What are your what are three pieces of advice that you could give the listeners to today?
3 pieces of advice, just generally, or with their businesses? Or...
Business, general. It could be whatever is coming to you.
Yeah. So I think the first is you have to really connect to yourself first. So we focus a lot on surrender, and surrender is a really operating system of ayahuasca. It really teaches you how to surrender, and I view it as the operating system of life. The pain and suffering we feel is because we believe we should be somewhere else that we're not, and it's very easy to live in that continually, even when you're achieving thing, because you're always creating that, and you're in that pattern of that. And so learning to surrender is a really important aspect. And so, in a way of operating in the surrender, most people operate in a control state, which is like they're trying to figure everything out first. Then they're putting, going full speed, trying to hit these goals that they set up from their spreadsheets, because they think this is what works. And then they're living in the alignment or really misalignment of what they created. Yeah. And so, I talk a lot about shifting that to the surrender state, which the surrender state is, first creating alignment. So we kind of have it flip flop. So we're working based on, spreadsheets, or what we think will work, or, our calculations in our head, but what are you aligned to, first and foremost? And I saw this a lot when I was in the startup world in New York, and just with startups, people like create these businesses because they think it's an opportunity, but they're never really like connected to it. Or they just want to start a company. So like, what company should I start? But the reason to start a company is because you have this burning desire to
change something
into the world that really needs to be there. And so it's creating that alignment first, and that can go for your business, that can go for your personal life, your relationships, anything. Creating that, first and foremost. And then you set intentions. And so you start to really, feel into what that means, put those intentions out into the world, really focus in on that. And then you trust, which is a hard thing for most. But, you need trust to really do anything new, to really follow your passion, to follow what your calling is, because you will be tested. And so it's really, what do you trust in? I think Steve Jobs had an interesting quote around this, that you need to trust in something, whether it's God, universe,
believe.
What is it that you really trust in, and you're going to put forth that will hold you through those times.
Yeah. That's amazing. This has been such a beautiful conversation, Brandon. I truly appreciate it. We could go on and on and on. You're doing some wonderful stuff with One Heart, and, hopefully I can spread the word for you and, maybe partake in it one day. And, I really, wish you guys to just keep, growing and really setting all those intentions. I know that I'm going to shift, saying this is the goal I want to reach, and say this is the intention that I want to reach with my business and my personal life. So, key takeaway for me today.
Amazing. Yeah. And if this does create any curiosity with anyone, we do monthly webinars, Q&As, and usually have alumni come and tell their stories, and we share more of the experience. People can register those at oneheart.com. Our website is the number 1, HEART.com. And, also people apply. Usually they'll end up on a call with me. I'm happy to speak with anyone and share more about what we've learned, how we can support.
I love that. So guys, One Heart, that's the number 1, HEART.com. And please connect with Brandon Evans further on LinkedIn if you so desire. But yes, join in on that webinar. I think it would be interesting to listen to everybody's experience. Thank you again, Brandon. This has been amazing.
Thank you, Sasha. This was
Thank
great.
you. Thank you.